It's 6:30 and we have a quorum. Woohoo. Okay. So I will call the meeting to order. Just going to get a pen. You may have one here. Your meeting.
What?
Okay. Okay. So, are there any adjustments to the agenda?
None that I know
I'm going to forego the approval of the minutes from the May 2026 meeting, since I sent you the wrong minutes.
of.
And I will get those out to you, right after the meeting. Okay. If there are no adjustments to the agenda, let's start with old business. Working group reports and assignments. Greg, you said that you had a meeting.
Yes, we did have a meeting,
Okay.
and I'll just go over some of the quick points that
Sure.
we discussed. Let's see. Okay, well, we make basically met to discuss, what we're doing and to review things, particularly dealing with the grant monies that we have left.
Mm-hmm.
And we discussed the digital timeline,
Okay.
and it is under development and refinement. And the goal is to make the timeline a living document so that we can add to
Adjust.
it as history, progresses.
Mm-hmm.
During the Barre Heritage Festival, Joellen will be totally thrilled to do a presentation. And that includes presenting the timeline, and I think it may include a brief video covering similar topic. She'll work that out, but she's happy to do the presentation for that.
Okay.
Uh, Joellen noted that the 12 pride flags that we had ordered have been distributed,
Okay.
and from henceforth, Erica Rail will take stewardship of them and collect them and distribute them annually, because we want them to be collected in case, for some reason a business goes out of business and or they lose the flag or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have one person responsible for it. Regarding the Let's Talk series, we discussed how best to use the services of Christy Clemens
Mm-hmm.
in developing a program similar to the Let's Talk one that she presented.
Mm-hmm.
She is very flexible and will work with us, and I believe Rick was going to get in touch with her
Okay.
at some point. Uh, the main points were that we do not have to stick to the exact format that she used. We can develop our own format,
Okay.
and what we discussed was Uh, perhaps a good approach is to recruit individuals who are interested in being facilitators for this type of program.
Mm-hmm.
And we can use our time with Christy to have a few sessions or a session or however she decides to do it, because she's quite flexible with
Okay.
what we'd like. And so if we could, in a sense, train facilitators so that, we can have this kind of program spread out
Hmm.
to different departments. And we discussed that we can recruit from within city departments, community organizations, and we can recruit via front page forum, or Facebook, or anywhere where we can get exposure, and hopefully with the support of the city council.
Hmm.
And again, we will organize the program based on the Let's Talk program that she presented, but it will be tailored toward Barry as much as possible.
Sure.
And also in order to, break down any barriers to attendance, we should, as we develop our program, consider things such as what space we use, accessibility, and perhaps something like childcare so that people are not excluded if we have perhaps an evening session and or evening training and,
Hmm.
they wanted to participate. And I think that's basically it that we covered.
Okay.
So from henceforth, you know, we will start, I guess, leading the charge on how, as a committee, we can develop and best use the Let's Talk type series.
Okay. And do you know who was present for the
Yes, Joellen was there, and Rick was there, and I was there.
okay.
And I can send you my notes on it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so like the only thing I would have to add, Greg covered pretty much what we discussed. The only thing I would add is maybe our next steps can be to like choose a path to presenting the Let's Talk again, like decide on when we want to do like a
Hmm.
timeline goal for when, and figure out like to whom, maybe pick some groups that would benefit from this training.
Yep.
Okay.
Does anybody have any thoughts about that? Like as far as so the Let's Talk is it's like a community discussion type training around um, diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And it's about talking about uh, differences in people and like how to handle that, like in community, right?
Hmm.
Um,
From the experience I had, you basically get to know each other, get to know what led to people getting together. You were there for the
yeah,
and I think Chris Roberts and I learned quite a bit about each other, that um, getting to know each other better.
yeah,
Um,
in the pairs, yeah, that was fun. That was
mhm.
good. So
Because
yeah, like maybe we decide to invite schools, like see if there's groups that schools
mhm.
might elect to do this training with us, or I don't know who else might be interested.
I'll also interject if I might, that the first one that we did, we invited, department heads to come and do it from the
Mhm.
city. And not everyone was obviously able to attend. So I think we could do that again as well. Invite people who might be interested in attending from city staff would be a really great opportunity to include them.
Did I'm not asking for names, but did you have a number of department heads who participated?
Yeah, we did. At the time, the director of HR, but he's no longer with us. And the director of the Department of Public Works participated, and I want to say the police chief might have participated in some of the sessions.
Okay. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Any updates on items discussed in our last meeting? Okay. Language access policy update.
Language access policy, no progress on that. No further development yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And so the next item on the agenda is the equity tool assessment of ordinance chapter 25. Um, Ian, I see you're here. Is there anything you wanted to say before you'll get a chance to,
Nothing yet.
okay. Okay. So um, this is a fairly short policy. Conduct in parks and public spaces. In fact, it's so short that I can probably read the whole thing without too much difficulty. One page. Um, the city council has enacted this ordinance under the authority granted to the city by 24 VSA 2291 to promote the public health, safety, welfare, and convenience. This ordinance shall be a civil ordinance within the meaning of 24 VSA Chapter 59, Section 1971B. The purpose of this ordinance is to enable authorized city officials to issue a notice against trespass and enforce that notice against an individual whose behavior is dangerous, illegal, or unreasonably disruptive, while recognizing the existing rights of individuals to engage in constitutionally protected activities on public or city-owned property. Uh, the city, the city council hereby expressly delegates its authority to issue a notice against trespass to one, any city official who is in charge at the time of issuance of the city property for which the notice against trespass is issued. Two, any sworn officer or community outreach specialist of the city's police department. And three, any other city official authorized to enforce the city's ordinances in the exercise of their official duties, each an authorized official. If an individual violates any city ordinance, rule, or regulation, including any code of conduct or state law, or while on or within a city-owned property fails to follow the lawful directive of an authorized official may issue a notice against trespass for a violation which was committed while on or within a city-owned property, including but not limited to municipal buildings, parks, parking lots, sidewalks, and streets. The city council shall adopt procedures regarding the issuance of notices against trespass, the duration of such notices, and appeals of such notices. Such procedures shall be filed with the city clerk. Okay. So it's a fairly short policy. Um, so do we want to review it through the equity assessment tool here?
My first question is, have the procedures been filed with the city clerk?
I'm pretty sure we discussed procedures. There were some parts of this that were kind of discussed as part of the ordinance, and then I think it got stripped out to be procedure. So I think that has been filed. I'm like 99% sure that the procedures have been filed with the city clerk.
Okay.
Okay. And it says chapter added by ordinance number 2025-02. So I'm assuming that means that it was put in 2025. Um, so Briefly describe the proposal, including background information regarding the problem the proposal is intended to address. Basically giving the city the right to issue notices of trespass, I think, and indicating who has the ability to do that.
Well, and I don't think it's just trespass. I think it's conduct because um, it's specifically against an individual whose behavior is dangerous, illegal, or unreasonably disruptive.
Right. And I think though it's just dealing with issuing notices against trespass. So it's not, I mean, the city officials or presumably the police would deal with any violations. But what we're looking here is just issuing a notice of trespass saying that if you conduct yourself in an unlawful manner, then we can tell you you can't use the city parks or public spaces.
And I believe, if I could interject, the
Sure.
the way the procedures work, I believe, is that if you like on your first notice, you might be asked to not return to parks and public spaces for, 24 hours. And
Hmm.
then on your second notice, you might be asked for to not return for, I can't remember the different levels, but there's different levels. So every time,
Right.
it sort of increases how much time you can't until you can return to those places,
Hmm. And I suppose if it continues, then you could eventually get to a lifetime ban.
possibly.
Yeah.
But I also think one of my arguments was that it's city property and there's First Amendment rights and there are all
Hmm.
these other things that we have to be very careful of as well. So,
Yeah. And I did notice that it indicated state law, but not federal law.
right.
So, is the proposal related to COVID-19 response or recovery? No, I wouldn't think so. Um, is there federal or other COVID-19 related funding that may support the proposal? I would assume not. The intended outcomes of the proposal. Um, I think it's giving a tool um, to protect the public against people um, who are disruptive. Anything else you would?
I guess it's just disruptive behavior
Yeah.
of any kind.
And if you didn't have this, it would be one less tool that um, I mean, if you can't issue a notice of trespass, then I guess the an issuance of a notice of trespass would be, I'm assuming, generally in lieu of an arrest. Um,
Yeah, because I guess without this policy, it would just be whoever's on site or whatever, authorized officials or, city officials would have to call police in.
right.
Police would arrive, they would issue a violation, civil
Hmm.
violation, I suppose.
So it's a step that goes before the issuance of a citation.
I see.
Okay. Are there fiscal implications of this proposal for the city of Barre? I would think that generally you would have public officials would be available or on hand, and it's just you're issuing a citation, you're issuing a notice of trespass rather than a citation, or I wouldn't think it would have any fiscal implications.
So, like from a practical perspective, let's say somebody is disturbing the peace and in a park in the city. Like um how does this policy get invoked? Like, does somebody go to City Hall or call City Hall and say, hey, like there was a person who was doing something in the park that I didn't like, whatever? Or would it be like somebody has to be there to issue the notice of trespass, like in person?
Yeah, it doesn't really say. I would think that the general idea of it is you're preventing something from getting out of hand. You know, if you have a concert and someone's in the park playing bagpipes, that's not a member of the band, um, if you don't have the ordinance in place, well, does the person have the right to play bagpipes? Yes, but not necessarily at that time. Although there are noise ordinances and so forth that might take into effect that there.
I I think maybe the question was not is this ordinance important or not? It's how is it enacted? And so the question is, do we call City Hall and then they send somebody? My experience with trespass notices is that you call the non-emergency police line and a police officer issues it. Um, so like that's the question.
Yeah, so if that's the normal avenue for notice of trespasses, and there's this policy which basically distributes or delegates that authority to other city officials, then maybe it just makes it, I guess it makes it easier for people to have a notice of trespass issued, because then, if, well, I don't know, if they're calling police directly, then the police have to deal with it anyway, even if they're like, well, you can speak to someone at City Hall right now because it's before 4:30 p.m. and they're open and they can issue that for you instead of the police. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I would assume too, if you had an event at the Barre Opera House, for example,
Right.
that there would be a city official who's involved with that would be on hand, might be on hand and be able to issue a notice of trespass if someone became unruly.
Okay. All right. So,
Yeah.
in other words,
Yeah.
I guess maybe this is more applicable to situations in which there's gatherings of people and there are city officials present. Then
Hmm.
it's like a much more immediate result or consequence, I suppose.
I would imagine that there this kind of thing is in the procedures that were developed
Let me
as
look
part
and
of the
see if I can
ordinance.
let me look and see if I can find those procedures for you.
Okay, thanks.
I would also think that there might be a positive fiscal implication for the city in having this policy in place
Oh, yeah, definitely.
because it would keep it from going to the next level. Is the proposal evidence informed?
Can I interject for a sec?
Sure.
The procedure is on the city website. It
Okay.
is under, if you go to the main website or the main page and you go to charter ordinances and policies, the little
Hmm.
thing with the columns, and then you click on council policies in the far right section, almost at the bottom. And then there's council policies, and then it's about halfway down. It's called Notices Against Trespass on City Property, and it is 5 pages long.
Okay. And that,
So
go ahead.
that, I'm just saying that that like the ordinance itself is like 1 page, but the procedures are a little bit more have a lot more meat to them. So
Okay. And where did you say?
you go to the main page, city webpage, and ordinances and charter, and then on the right-hand side, it has in this section and at the very bottom, almost the bottom, it says council policies. And you click on that, and then you click on the council policies on the left-hand side. And then halfway down, it's notices against trespass on city property. And it was last reviewed 7/15/25 and adopted on 7/15/25.
Oh, okay. I'm seeing the council policies now.
Yep. So what we may want to do is just discuss the ordinance, but it may be helpful because I forgot
Sure.
that the charter, or I'm sorry, the ordinance didn't include the procedures, that we include the procedures as well as part of our discussion, because that may be a more comprehensive discussion.
Yes, I would agree with that. So we might want to um, basically postpone discussion of this until such time as we're able to look at the actual procedures.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any um I would entertain a motion to that effect if
I wonder, I don't know. I dropped a
or
link.
do go
Uh,
ahead.
I dropped a link to the procedure in the chat, in the Zoom chat. I know that's
Okay.
not helpful to the public who might be viewing this later, but just for the purposes of us taking a look at the procedures, I mean, maybe we can just do a quick verbal summary. Like it looks like it talks about who can issue a notice against trespass and
Hmm.
how verbal, and there's a step here about verbal warning prior to issuance of the notice. The authorized official should ensure that the person um, has been informed of the basis for the notice. So that's good. So they're explained like
So
why.
basically a verbal warning unless it's inappropriate.
Right.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. Is how do people feel about maybe kind of we just go summarize our way through this
Hmm.
verbally? Um,
And then it says it should generally be hand delivered to the person to whom it is issued, unless it doesn't permit safe delivery. It may be mailed to the individual's address of record.
from my,
Obviously, in
yeah.
that case, it wouldn't be given immediately.
Hmm. Then paragraph 5, length of notice against trespass for minor first-time violations. The notice may be issued for up to 1 day. Moderate or second offenses within a year, the notice may be for up to 30 days. More serious um, violations within or a third offense within a year, up to 180 days. And then there's definitions of classes of violations. So,
Right. And it says it should not be for more than 2 years.
oh, the length of the duration of the notice.
Right.
Okay. And there's an appeals process.
Okay. So activities that may result in injury or harm, specific threats, sexual conduct or lewd behavior, possession, use, or selling of any regular or distribution of any regulated drug, destroying, abusing, or damaging city property or resources, and stalking.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because stalking itself uh, a misdemeanor.
Hmm.
Well, that was one of the concerns that I had was that some of these things are already criminal offenses.
Right.
Right.
Um, so, but they're listed here as well. Um, and so I felt that that was redundant, but
Right. But if you are, yeah, if you are engaged in behavior on the city property that just basically says that you can't use the city property for a period of time, and that,
So it's an additional consequence for
right.
doing any of these activities on city property.
Hmm. And then it's also entering restricted Class B violations are entering restricted spaces without permission, public urination or defecation, disturbing any lawful assembly or meeting of persons without lawful authority. So that would be your bagpiper at a concert. Um, and then Class C violations, using city resources in a manner inconsistent with their intended use. Um, open alcohol beverage, consuming alcohol, violating a smoke-free area, failing to abide by posted city rules, failing to follow the reasonable direction of city staff, obstructing vehicular or pedestrian traffic, using abusive or obscene language, unreasonable noise. I think also, for instance, if you enter the pool when it's not during open hours, that would be a reason to issue a notice of trespass because you're violating the rules there. And then it gives appeals, with the exception of the 1 day notice. Um, file an appeal in writing within 7 days of issuance of the notice.
Mhm.
There's a section on exigent circumstances. An authorized official reasonably determines person presents an immediate threat. An appeal shall not stay the operation of the notice against trespass.
Okay. Yeah, so it seems like the Class C violations are ones that are just uh, ordinance violations. They're not necessarily like the police are not going to give you a citation for those necessarily, whereas the Class B and Class A, the more serious ones, are actually um, offenses that police could issue you a citation for. Um, so for it seems to me like practically or like practically speaking, the Class B and Class A, this ordinance would so you get a citation by police and you'd have to appear in court, and then on top
Mhm.
of that, you're also no trespass for the city property. Whereas the Class C, the least serious violations, it's just like a way for the city to like encourage people to be respectful, I suppose. Abiding by posted city rules or not using
Mhm.
abusive or obscene language in public, I suppose.
Yeah. And uh, and if there is a hearing, then the person who issued the notice cannot be the authorized, cannot be the decision maker, which I think is pretty standard. Um, and then it lists how to the notice of hearing. Is it within 10 business days? It's a preponderance of evidence. Um, you have to request a hearing, it looks like. Otherwise, they'll issue a written decision within 10 days of the hearing or oh, 15 days of the appeal. You can have a representative or observer and can call witnesses, but you have to let the decision maker know of that. Hearings are closed to the public unless otherwise requested by the appellant. Okay. Okay. And once a notice against trespass has been issued, unless the notice has been stayed, a violation of the notice may be enforced pursuant to 13 VSA 3705, which would be a criminal violation, or section 1118 of the city's code of ordinances for a civil violation. So, thank you, Rick, for sharing that there, and Sonia for finding it. Okay. So do we want to continue then based on
Sure.
our, okay. I think um the proposals, what we've answered so far, I think is um so that there would be fiscal implications for the city in terms of when there's a hearing.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Um, it might not cost the city money, but it would cost time that the persons would not be able to use for another purpose. Is it evidence informed? I would assume that it's based on other policies in other communities, but I don't know that for sure, certain.
I think it may be based on another ordinance in a different community. Um, is it evidence informed? Uh, I don't know. I think it is. Um, we were told when this was presented to us that it's another tool to be able to use for disruptive behavior. And
Hmm.
specifically at the time, there were a lot of people hanging out in City Hall Park. And so that was, and it was having
Hmm.
an impact on downtown businesses. And so that was the primary um, reason, I think, for enacting this ordinance.
Hmm. Was it based on homeless encampments or?
Not encampments, but people who were maybe unhoused and didn't have any place to go during the day, and they were hanging out and in the
Okay.
park. And then the parking spots on Church Street, they were taking up parking spots on Church Street, and then those became permit only parking. And so, to be honest, one of my biggest concerns is that as far as equity goes, I recognize that there are two competing um, members or groups of members of the community. We have the unhoused community and
Hmm.
their needs, and then we have the rest of the community who lives in houses and apartments and have a roof over their head. And so there are a bit of um, competing interests because
Right.
people didn't have places to go, and so they were hanging out, and basically the gazebo became their living room, and that was not necessarily hopeful to or seen as a
Hmm.
positive image for the city of Barre. So
Right. I recall hearing about someone defecating
yeah.
in the park there, and that became a big story.
Right. And I will also say that when you don't provide a place for people to go to the bathroom, they still have to go to the bathroom. So
Mhm.
that's another concern.
Okay. Uh, Does the proposal advance a strategic goal and or key performance indicator of the Barre City Municipal Plan or strategic plan?
I don't think so, but
Okay. I'll indicate not aware.
yeah.
Are the desired outcomes specific and measurable?
Well, I think that's probably dependent on who you talk to. I think if you I don't think we've gotten an update that I can recall about how many no trespass orders have been issued.
Mhm.
You could certainly measure that, and you can measure how many people have been, or what the downtown park appears to be now. But
Mhm.
I don't think that that means that we've, you know, found a place for people to go. They've just been pushed out of the City Hall Park and are now in other places.
Mhm.
Mhm. So the purpose in the purpose paragraph says the ordinance is to enforce notices against an individual whose behavior is dangerous, illegal, or unreasonably disruptive. Um, while recognizing that people have individual constitutional rights. So the purpose of the policy is to issue a notice of trespass against dangerous, illegal, or unreasonably disruptive behavior, right?
Mhm.
So the purpose doesn't state the desired outcome really, unless the desired outcome is to issue notices of trespass.
It is
Sounds
to
like a
prevent the illegal, the behavior
right,
from occurring. Yeah.
right. I mean, so the purpose is really to reduce dangerous, illegal, or unreasonably disruptive behavior on city property, right? But it doesn't say that in the purpose paragraph.
Mhm.
Um, are they specific and measurable? Yes. If the purpose is to reduce those behaviors, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can measure by the number of orders of trespass and how it's changed, because presumably, if you're not issuing orders of trespass anymore, then presumably, well, it's either because you're not enforcing it or because you don't need to because the behavior has changed.
True, or the policy in the end is redundant because the police are there anyway, issuing citations
Hmm.
for, criminal citations in the the notice of trespass that, I don't know. I think
Do you have sufficient population level data to understand whether the proposal would address or create any racial disparities? Um, we would need to know what the racial component of the unhoused community would be. Um, so I don't have
The
that
answer is
information.
probably no.
Okay.
Sorry, my computer died.
Yeah, we were
Oh,
just discussing whether we have sufficient population level data to understand whether, uh, I'll try to say the ordinance would address or create any racial disparities, and that would depend on what the racial component of the unhoused community is. And I'm
This
assuming
isn't
obviously,
only talking about the unhoused
no,
community,
we're
it's
we're not.
talking about people in general. Like not all like unhoused people aren't the only people who cause problems
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that we really have the data on that.
no,
I would say
and
no.
yeah, and the other thing is that, issue, let's say we have, we gain whatever, a year or 2 year track record of use of this policy, and let's say over 2 years, uh, 10 notices of trespass are issued. How would we get that data on the people to whom the notices are issued? Like, I don't think there's really any avenue for obtaining that data.
I believe it's a
analyzed.
matter of public record.
You think it's a matter of public record?
Well, I'm not sure that when they're issuing a trespass notice that they're necessarily taking down, the sex and the age and the race
Right.
of the person. I think they're probably just handing out notices.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's my point is that after the use of this policy, there's no way that the policy itself doesn't give any avenue to analyze that impact.
Hmm.
I also think, I mean, in response to the fact that I think people were seeing this as a solution, another tool for people who were hanging out in the park, um, that it would be interesting also to know if we are primarily using this against people who are unhoused. Like, I think that would be an interesting piece of
Hmm.
data to know as well.
Right. And of course, there are areas that are public spaces but aren't city property. Like, I don't believe this, the city does not own the Aldrich Library and the space in front of it, correct?
Right. Correct.
So that people who were hanging out there would not be in violation of the policy.
Right.
Um, if implement, can you collect disaggregated demographic data, track it, and evaluate it to assess equity impacts? Um, if the names of the individuals are a matter of public record, then you could probably get the information based on the names and theoretically addresses of the individuals.
So yeah, I guess it is possible.
Hmm.
In my opinion, that's very unlikely to actually happen.
But true, but it's possible.
Yeah, right. It would be someone would have to go through the steps to get that gather the information.
Right. Or like in the procedure, maybe the procedure specifies, okay, like when you issue a notice of trespass, fill out this form so that we can collect data on
Hmm.
the issuance of notices of trespass.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that form could have like, is the person housed or unhoused? Just very basic housed or unhoused, approximate, whatever, approximate age,
Yeah. I
sex.
suppose if we could see what one of the no trespass orders looks like, then we'd have an idea of what information they gather for it. Are there staff trained to analyze the data related to this?
I would say no, but I don't think we really have data, so I don't know what data
Yeah.
they would be analyzing.
Um, so not aware of any, I guess would be the
Yeah.
okay. Um, which other committees or local stakeholders may have an interest in this proposal or its outcomes? Um,
Well, um, I do know, so I went to a conference on um, restorative practices this week
mhm,
and um, uh, learned that punitive measures don't necessarily impact change in behavior. So addressing behavior specifically is changes um, uh, what changes yeah addressing skills and behaviors changes behavior, not
mhm,
necessarily punishing it. So and I also know that the city of Barre pays or gives a what do you call it, an allocation to the diversion office of $2,500 a year or something like that for community, and that I believe that enables the diversion office to do community cases
Hmm.
of restorative justice. So like if some of these people are repeat offenders, like in the procedure, it says that if somebody has a second offense within a year or a third offense within a year, then
Hmm.
the repercussions increase.
Right.
But it seems to me that that's maybe an avenue for reducing the behavior that this policy is intending to address. Is maybe after, like, at a second violation, or even at a first, if a person is willing to
Hmm.
do a community referral to restorative process.
Now I'm looking at the councils or committees that may this may impact, and just looking at going through, you have the Animal Control Committee. I could certainly see that being impacted. Um, well, Board of Abatement, I wouldn't say, or Board of Civil Authority, no. Cemeteries Committee, because the cemetery is a city-owned, that would be impacted. The Cow Pasture Stewardship Committee, again, city-owned property would be impacted. Um, the DRB, I don't see how that would be impacted. Facilities and grounds obviously would be. Um, Neighborly Berry Committee, I'm not really sure. Parks and Rec would be. Police Advisory, probably. Unhoused Community Committee, definitely. Um, so I think there are a number of different committees that would be have a stake in this.
I also think that other local stakeholders would be, business owners. I think they were really pushing for something
Right,
to be done about disruptive behavior. Um, and I think um, community members, who are trying to
right.
access downtown businesses.
I know Community National Bank, for instance, closed their ATM after hours because um, there were people who were accessing it and then staying overnight.
Mm.
Um, does the proposal encourage or prioritize contractors? I think the answer, led by members of marginalized groups, I would say no, because it does not have any contractors. Um, Des Describe the target population, including demographic information such as race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, age, religion, political affiliation.
I
It's
guess
people who'd like to.
anyone,
Yeah, go ahead,
Hmm.
Greg.
I guess anyone in violation of the
Right.
ordinances.
We've indicated that the unhoused community is um, among the people who would be most affected by this. Um, but as far as the demographics of that community, um, are there any spe demographics where they're overly represented?
I think people who are poor,
Yeah.
who are hanging out in the park because they don't have anywhere else to go.
Hmm.
I think people who are maybe have challenges with substance abuse or addiction would be maybe more likely to
Yep.
be part of the target population.
Yeah, it seems to be more of a class issue.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And one thing that I've encountered with a lot of the individuals facing addiction is a lot of it is self-medication. And
Mhm.
so again, it's impacting the disabled community.
Mm.
That with the reduced access to healthcare, many are turning to find medication and treatment in whatever way they can.
Yeah, I know I've heard from people who are in severe pain with the limitations that they have on getting pain medication. Sometimes they resort to street medication.
I also saw an interesting statistic the other day that said the percentage of um, people who are unhoused have a higher likelihood of being a victim of violence because they live
Hmm.
on the streets. And they also have a higher percentage of traumatic brain injuries because they do live on the streets and are more apt to be victims of violence. And so you also have that's another whole issue that you're talking about, someone who has a traumatic brain injury and is
Hmm.
unhoused maybe, and maybe has a healthcare issue as well, and just it just continues to domino.
Sure. And in some cases too, it may be that the violence, becoming a victim of violence or the TBI may be what led to the like I'm thinking of runaways, for instance. Um, might be what led to being unhoused in the first place.
It could be. This particular story that I heard was a person um, had a relationship breakup and then was living with one income, and their car broke down and they weren't able to
Yeah.
uh, repair their car, and then they were not able to get to their job, and they were not able to keep their home, and
Hmm.
then they became unhoused, and then it was just a domino effect that, and then they
Right.
were a victim of violence because they were living on the street and then had a traumatic brain injury. And so all of these things from basically a breakup,
Hmm.
and not having enough money to fix their car.
Yep. Um, I wouldn't, how was the target population selected? Um, I don't know that there was a selection process on that.
I think there was, but
Okay.
I think it was very deliberate.
Okay. So it's the population that was um causing the most angst in the
Yeah,
community, basically.
yeah, yeah.
Um, did you meaningfully consult with community members in developing the proposal?
Did any of you participate in any meaningful conversations that you recall about this proposal?
Guess that kind of answers that.
If none of us are saying yes, the answer is no. So it would have been warned, but no special warning given.
No.
Okay. What geographic areas of the city will be most impacted? I guess it's city-owned land.
I would say most likely the downtown area.
Right.
Yeah.
It also includes public buildings, so the swimming pool or the
Right.
um
Mm.
BOR, the auditorium and city hall, all of those actual
Mhm.
buildings as well,
And including the sidewalks,
and streets.
right?
Yes.
Because the sidewalks, are the sidewalks considered city owned?
No, but it did say streets, I think.
Hmm.
It says, but not the section 25(4) issuance of notice against trespass. It says, may issue a notice against trespass for a violation which is committed while on or within a city-owned property, including but not limited to municipal buildings, parks, parking lots, sidewalks, and streets.
Now, the sidewalks, when we're looking at sidewalks and streets, it may be the part that's the sidewalk, like the sidewalk in front of City Hall would be considered part of City Hall, whereas the sidewalk in front of my house would probably not fall under this jurisdiction.
I
Um,
think it would because I think your sidewalk is taken care of by the city.
well, that's true. Okay. So basically, anywhere where there's a sidewalk.
Or a street.
Hmm. Okay. Is there a larger than average population of Vermonters of color in those areas? I would I would not think that would be known necessarily.
Yeah.
How will this incorporate cultural concerns of specific groups? Um, I don't think those were taken into consideration.
No.
I mean, and I think maybe just not applicable. Is that a better answer for this
Okay.
question?
Will our public written materials generated to be translated?
I'm gonna say no.
Not aware.
I don't think we translate anything in the city, which is why we're trying to do a
Okay.
public access policy or a language
Okay.
access
Not
policy.
aware
Or
of
the
any
language is
translation.
Yeah.
Okay. I will say of any policy. Okay. Does the proposal include a social marketing strategy for the target population? I,
I don't think so.
yeah, not aware. I mean,
I'm
it
just
may be something where the policy is, well, I guess you find out when if you get issued a citation or no trespass.
right. That's an interesting question, actually, because then, maybe that begs the question of like, should it be posted that not only are you going to get a citation by police, but you're also going to be no trespassed on the park, like if you
Hmm.
disrupt the peace
Yeah,
of
and I don't believe there are any signs like no trespassing, no loitering. Um, there may be a sign at the pool indicating the hours of operation, but
But I also
so
think it's a slippery slope because you can't post, no trespassing when it's a city park and we all own it.
right.
It belongs to all of us.
You could have a no loitering, but
I was
what
I was
exactly is loitering?
Yeah.
I was thinking kind of more along the lines of like, okay, well, if it seems to me that
Mhm.
80% of the problems that this policy um, ordinance was created for are going to be happening in specific city properties, right? So like not necessarily no trespassing in this city property, but like here's what happens if you do these things, right?
Yeah.
Fair warning of this
Yeah.
particular
Right.
ordinance.
And having the 1 day no trespass is kind of it's in some ways it's kind of like a warning that we're basically saying get out for a day. Does this seek to reduce disparities for groups of people who are marginalized or underserved? Probably increases disparities.
Hmm.
Although it may get them into areas where conducive to um, um, you know, getting them to the Good Samaritan house or various places that um, okay. What are the anticipated positive outcomes for the target population? Um,
I don't know that there were any considered. We don't know.
it's a tool to prevent escalation of um, undesired outcomes, I guess, in terms of if you issue the no trespass rather than issuing um, a civil or criminal violation.
That could be a positive outcome, I guess. Yeah.
I also think that there's, because if you are just being disruptive and you I'm going to like, say that this might be a silver lining, but it might provide another opportunity to, give someone more resources, like, hey,
Hmm.
and maybe that will be the thing that helps them realize like, okay, I need and I want to get some help. It's just another opportunity. And I'd be interested to know if these kinds of like, let's say, lower level disturbances have led to more support for certain people, sort of through the situation table and other kinds of um,
Hmm.
resources that we have.
Yeah. And sometimes you might not even realize you're being disruptive.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And this is like, ooh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Can these positive outcomes be replicated or extended to other groups? I mean, I think the positive outcomes would be for the general public and for all groups.
Hmm.
Okay. If so, which groups may benefit? I think. Does the proposal enhance services to communities that are underrepresented or underserved?
In and of
I think,
itself, no.
hmm? I
I,
think the potential exists for it, but the proposal itself, um,
the way it's written, it doesn't because the only outcome is the issuance of the notice of trespass. Like
right.
if the procedure were to have said like, oh, whenever possible, ask ask a recipient of a notice of trespass if they need services and direct them to such services, then yeah, then it would be
Mhm.
um,
It it does indicate generally you would have a verbal warning first.
right, but
Uh,
the procedure doesn't direct people to and services.
mhm. Okay.
So like again, like if it's not stated in procedure, it's not going to happen.
I think when people ask, sometimes you get an answer, but it's not part of the policy itself. So, so I'm just indicating does not direct to services. Um, and that I think answers the question, does the proposal enhance services to communities that are underrepresented or underserved?
Mhm.
So I would say not directly or not in the proposal or not in the policy. Let's try that. Could a disparate racial impact or other unintended consequence result from the proposal?
Yes.
Yes.
The question is it an unintended consequence?
I am trying to assume best intent with the policy.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
I'm going with
Mhm.
unintended.
Yeah. I don't think a disparate racial effect would be part of the intended policy. Um, but so I will indicate yes on that. Um, potentially. Um, if yes, what steps are you taking to mitigate the disparate impact? Um, it's really part of the policy. Um, but we do have an unhoused committee um, in the city that presumably is taking steps to um, get people the help that they need.
There's also that's a good point, William. Good Samaritan Haven actually also has an unhoused outreach person
Hmm.
who works for Good Sam and then also um, goes around like outdoors to the unhoused population, the places where they are living, Vermont,
Hmm.
Baylor, Berlin, Barre. Um, yeah, so they could could be one of those stakeholder groups that has an interest in
Hmm.
this policy.
Mhm.
And now, are there porta potties in any of these areas?
We had there's one in the park in Courier Park right now because of the farmers market and
Okay.
concerts on Wednesday nights and food trucks. And I don't know if it's locked during the week and only opened on Wednesday nights. There used to be one at the other end of town, but the it became very difficult for the owner of the porta potty, the company that owns it, to clean it, and so they took it away.
Hmm.
And we talked about this at a luncheon that is like a lunch summit for um the unhoused community that we have like kind of like every other month or so. And one of the issues was that there's no place for sharps, and so they're throwing them in the toilet or in the porta potty, and that's clogging up um the thing that cleans out the porta potty, and that's why they took it away. And so then there was a conversation about could we just have some sharps containers somewhere or near the porta potty, and maybe that would lessen the issue, and then for people
Hmm.
who need to use a porta potty they could still have access to one. So
Yeah.
that was a conversation we had. I don't know what happened with that.
And of course, during the um, library hours, you do have a bathroom there in the downtown that's open to the public and has sharps containers.
Right.
Uh, um, what additional steps could any entity take to mitigate the disparate impact? Um, I mean, you available bathrooms would be one possibility.
I also think that just um having I think the Neighborly Berry Committee, which part of the reason for the Neighborly Berry Committee was so that we could try to find a way to be kind to everyone in our community and not
Hmm.
just the people that look like us or live in houses like us or and so finding a way for people to recognize that
Hmm.
the people who are hanging out in the park are just like you. They're just having different struggles than you and
Hmm.
may need additional help.
Okay. Is there a disparate impact for any other marginalized group, including but not limited to groups identified by national origin, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, age, etc.?
I can see that being an issue.
I think it's generally is the is it more geared toward the youth who are, I imagine you don't have too many people who too many elderly who are on the street for very long.
Um, I was actually thinking more of a racial component here.
Hmm.
But I also think you could think about age as well. And even if you aren't thinking about the unhoused community, but you're thinking about like a group of kids who are just being really loud and noisy and, you
Yeah.
know, hanging out in the park and, sort of taking over the gazebo every day kind of thing, that would probably be disruptive to some people.
Hmm. Okay. And what steps are you taking to mitigate the disparate impact?
Well, I do think that there is the warning, and so I'm hoping that the warnings are being used.
Yeah,
But I don't think that there's necessarily any steps to
right.
mitigate it.
Okay. Beyond the steps described, what additional steps could be taken to mitigate the disparate impact? Um, advise of services available when you're looking at the unhoused community.
Yeah, I would say some kind of public information, effort that would include all of that.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, th State what the new policy is, and at the same time give options, available services, what you can do instead of, you know, ending up getting trespassed out of the public space.
Hmm. Okay. And I think that is it.
Can I just say one more thing?
Go
I
ahead.
don't I forgot to mention this when you asked about updates and items discussed in the last meeting. Um I did bring this up at City Council and that we've been working through different ordinances, and
Hmm.
the City Council was very appreciative, and I was hoping to be able to um either invite you all or some of you to come at some point and get us on the agenda so we could have a conversation about how could we be most helpful instead of doing this after the fact. I did make that recommendation, and so I think
Hmm.
having you all come in, recognizing that these have already been implemented, but how could we be helpful as we move forward? And any feedback that we have about them, about these policies, ordinances, I think would be really great to share with the city council and the city manager. So,
Okay. And I'll make sure I get the minutes which have our our things, and then I'll get the minutes for this meeting where we went over this um ordinance as well.
okay.
So um I know that the city council meetings are on Tuesdays. The second Tuesday of the month I have a commitment, so that week I would be unavailable, but I would generally be available
On other
other
Tuesdays.
other Tuesdays.
Okay.
Third I sometimes do, but that's not as big a deal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Sonia, for suggesting that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what I'll do is I will put this together, um, and write this up and get that out to you. I'll try to get it out to you sooner. Um, and then I'll also get out the one from the May meeting as well. Okay. Anything else to add on this? Okay. New business. A suggestion was made that we have a discussion of the BUUSD harassment and bullying policy.
Yeah, so that this is in response to an event that happened recently at the middle school in Barre, where it might be it might be worth having a discussion in this committee to see if there's enough interest in the community to gather stakeholders who might be interested in making sure that the school district has uh, not just policies against harassment and bullying, which I'm sure they do,
Hmm.
but that those policies encourage um, school culture that works to minimize and reduce and eliminate harassment and bullying, because harassment and bullying is not simply a one-off act that needs to be punished at one act at a time, but it's a cultural thing, and in order to impact bullying in a way that reduces harm and the potential for extremely serious harm,
Hmm.
that would take a change in culture, and that's kind of a much bigger ask for a school district.
Hmm.
So the interest of this discussion topic is to see if there is interest in talking about doing that, like if there's stakeholders who are willing to kind of encourage that kind of um, call to action, I suppose.
Okay.
So on the
God bless you.
policies
Bless you.
for BUSD regarding hazing and bullying, I can actually speak to that to a degree as I'm on the board there.
Okay.
So I have actually put the policies in the chat.
Yes, there's the policy on the prevention of harassment, hazing, and bullying of students, C10.
Yep, and
And then there is
C10P.
the model procedures on the prevention of harassment, hazing, and bullying of students, C-10P. These were um, adopted June 13th of 2019. It looks like the policy on the prevention of harassment, hazing, and bullying was revised on June 1st of this year.
That is correct.
Okay.
So the
Yeah.
question is, as a member of the board there, are you interested in having us have anything to do with that?
Yeah, I'd be open to cross to collaborating on this.
Okay.
Yeah, so what other kinds of stakeholders might be beneficial? Like what how might the existing policies be improved and who would have like the experience or the the insight in into that?
So I know that the policies have recently been gone over. I know we usually consult with VSBA and state and the laws from the state for that. As for other stakeholders, it would be groups such as this one. Um, I'm I'll admit with you, I have young children, so I am at please don't mind my little, it's barking for some reason. Um, but yeah, I'm just at a loss thinking of what some of the groups would do. Sorry.
I
I
don't
think
know.
you
You're there sitting on the beach. I don't think that you're too worried about anything out there.
I think that other stakeholders should be parents. I
Mhm.
think parents have a definitely a stake in this, and I also think that as much as parents are want the schools to take responsibility, I also hope that we could encourage parents to also take responsibility because I think sometimes the bullying starts at home. So how can we find a way to include parents in the conversation to make sure that they're
Mhm.
being accountable to themselves?
Okay. It's 7:57, so I don't know that we want to go through the whole equity tool on this tonight. But are there any questions that people have regarding the policy?
Could we discuss it with with sort of an eye on the equity assessment tool at our next meeting? Or
Sure.
just pick one of
Yeah,
them, maybe?
that's what I
Well,
was
I
thinking.
think the two really go together
Okay.
because we have the policy on the prevention of harassment, hazing, and bullying, and then the model procedures.
Oh, the
It's kind of
procedures.
like what we did today, I think. I
Yeah,
think
you're
it would
right.
be the same thing. Um,
Okay.
or ordinarily we don't have charge over school policy, obviously, but it may be something that it sounds like there is an impetus to get involved in this particular policy here.
Yeah.
So, so we can add that, go through the equity tool on this one
Mhm.
um, for for these policies here. I'm not going to read the whole thing on these, so I would
Yeah,
suggest that
that's
people get familiar with them before our next meeting.
Can I interject to ask Ian? Like, first of all, thank you, Ian, for bringing these policies to our attention.
Welcome.
And I just wanted to ask, like, in your opinion, are you satisfied with these policies?
I am still, so I'm relatively new on the board. I've been on the board for a little over a year now. So I am still in the getting to kind of developing a feeling for how the policies are working. So that's just where I'm at right now.
Hmm.
So
Gotcha.
it's just a matter of getting feeling for what the community feels, and this is a one where there are strong feelings and things need steps need to be taken.
Hmm.
Okay.
Cool.
I'll also say, as a member of the school board for several years, most of the policies are created with the VSBA model policy. So there may not be a lot of difference from the policy that the BUUSD has to the VSBA model policy. And so we may find some things, but it may be the VSBA policy, model policy is run by an attorney and it's, legally sound. And so often it's
Hmm.
encourage that you continue to, or you think about not changing it a whole lot, because then you also have to have it reviewed by an attorney to make sure that it's legally sound. So I say all of that because we might find some issues with it, but it may be because of legal reasons that it has to be presented in a certain way. So
Yeah. And of course, we just have can give advice as
Right.
far as that's concerned.
Mhm.
So,
I
Right.
see. So in other words, there's the policy which covers harassment and bullying from a legal perspective, and then perhaps like moving culture and actually reducing harassment and bullying might be some other
mhm.
policy
And
that's outside of this.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
maybe it's not a policy, maybe it's just a strategic goal that the board adopts that says we're going to do X, Y, and Z to lead to less bullying and harassment.
Gotcha. Yeah, nice.
Maybe.
Okay.
Thank you, Sonia.
Sure.
Um, anything else on this? Discussion of items for future meetings. Well, we've got this policy that we'll be going over for the next meeting, so I think that um, these are very helpful. They take up are going to take up most of our meeting if we continue to do this in the same manner. Um, but I think that that's certainly is a good use of our time.
Yeah.
Okay. Hearing none. Visitors and public comment. Ian?
So yeah, hi, I'm Ian Campbell. I guess I've already done the introduction bit. So yeah, aside from all the rambling I've already done, I don't really have much to say.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Yes.
Thanks for
So
having
our
me.
next meeting will be on Thursday, July 9th at 6:30. One item on the agenda will be the election of officers, since we agreed that we would be having elections each July. So if you wish me to maintain my role, I'm fine with that. If you choose not to, I'm fine with that as well. So, um, and so I would entertain a motion if there's nothing else that anyone wants to bring up, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Someone has to second it.
Yeah,
Seconded.
okay. And it is 8:03 p.m. and we are adjourned.